Rotate your phone. You can't turn your phone while recording. What's it doing?
Rotate your phone.
Oh, there we go.
Is it recording?
I believe so.
Okay, guys, I hope this is working. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 93rd edition of the Rittenhouse Square Fine Arts Show. We're coming to you this year virtually for obvious reasons. My name is Charles Joyce. I've been in the show for 17 years, which is hard for me to believe, but it's true. First started the show in 2003. I've been a member of the board of directors for about 10 years. I came to Philadelphia to be a lawyer, to go to law school, and I stayed, and I became a labor lawyer. That was one of my clients right here, IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 614. They represent, among others, the PICO workers, so all you people in the Delaware Valley, like me, who've lost their power over the weekend, or over the last couple of days, the people that got them back were my members, my people. So they're a good group of guys. I'm honored to represent them. I really started painting in the late 90s as a means to relieve the stress of the job. As a full-time unit site labor lawyer, I'm awfully busy. But even before I started painting, when I came to Philadelphia in the early 80s, I loved walking the Rittenhouse Square show, and I always had a dream of being in the show someday. So I'm just pleased to have been a part of this wonderful organization for this long a time. And today I'm going to give you a tour of my Media Pennsylvania studio, show you the works that I have available. If we have time, we'll do a short demo for you. The title of this segment is called Painting What I See, and I paint landscapes. I paint urban and rural landscapes. I paint in oil and acrylic. The oil paint I use is a special water-based oil paint. It doesn't use linseed oil, so you avoid some of the fumes of the solvents and things like that. It's a little tricky to use. It took me a while to get used to using it because I was a traditional oil painter, but I've been able to do pretty well with it over the last 10, 15 years. So let's get started. As I said, the title of this segment is Painting What I See. I think as a landscape painter, it's very important to paint what's around you every day, what you see going into work, what you see on the weekends. This particular painting right here, this first painting is called House on Sellers Avenue. It is a view of a suburb, a near suburb of the city of Philadelphia. It's actually where Tina Fey grew up. And I take the 101 trolley from Media into Center City, Pennsylvania. I hope to do that again soon, every day for work. And this was about 3-4 years ago. It was after a winter storm. It was a brilliant sunny morning, and I just loved the way the shadows were purple and the light was translucent on the snow, and I tried to capture that. Below that is a painting called Leaving Wolf's Diner. Another place that, by the way, my wife Chris is filming this. She's my, not only my partner, but she's the best art critic one could have. She always tells me what's wrong with my paintings, and no painting, for the most part, gets put on my website unless she gives it her approval. Anyway, Chris and I have a little place outside of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. This is on Route 15 from Harrisburg to Gettysburg, a little town called Dillsburg. This little diner, Wolf's Diner, has been there for as long as I can remember. I was a little kid and my father used to take me there. So I painted this several years ago. It's kind of reminiscent of how you get that feeling that you're finally leaving the confines of the city. You're getting into the country where we enjoy to spend our time. And I see I'm getting a bunch of comments. It may be hard for me
wait a minute. So we're just checking a comment here.
Everything is sideways. Need to.
Sideways. Oh, what happened?
Hold on, guys.
Sorry, everyone. We don't want it that way, do we?
Is that better, everybody?
Can you turn your camera on? But don't we want it the other way? Is it the orientation in the...
I don't know. I can't see what we're doing here.
Oh, now she says it's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry
Thank
about
you,
that, people.
everyone. Sorry.
We're obviously amateurs at this business. Anyway, what I was saying is this kind of shows the juxtaposition of my work. When I first started painting and showing work, all I really had was kind of gritty urban and some suburban scenes. In 2008, we bought a place outside of Gettysburg, and I started expanding my repertoire to rural scenes, which is really great for me because it gives me a chance to kind of escape to a different, even a different way of painting from the urban paintings I do. This is a good example here. I'm also, many of you guys will know that I'm a very passionate Civil War amateur historian, and I'm particularly devoted to the Battle of Gettysburg. This is a scene of the Battle of Gettysburg, a kind of an overlooked part of the battlefield called Powers Hill. Up until just a few years ago, it was completely covered with trees, and they cleared it off to the 1863 appearance. What I was really taken by was the way that the light was hitting the stone wall there and how it warmed up all of the rocks. So that was my focus. That's what I wanted to capture. You'll see in my work, there's an emphasis on trying to capture light. One of my favorite painters, Edward Hopper, once said that all he ever wanted to do was to paint light on the side of a building. And I think for a landscape painter, that's one of the highest aspirations one can have. I try to do that myself. Here's an example of the urban work I do. This is a brand new piece. It just finished it a couple days ago. I call this Urban Repellers. This is actually a scene right outside of my office window. I was looking out my window with my trusty iPhone, and I saw these workers cleaning windows and doing some repairs, and the way they were juxtaposed, the three of them, I thought it made for a great composition. Actually, this guy right here is getting ready to take a selfie of himself and his buddies. I wanted to capture that kind of dynamic, that kind of tension, and also capture the kind of late afternoon sun hitting the office windows. Actually, that's a condominium, the condominium windows. By the way, we have our cats running around here, so if you hear a squeal, you'll know we stepped on one of them inadvertently. This small painting over here is another rural piece that I completed a few years ago. The part of Pennsylvania that we go to when we go into the country is apple country. Adams County is probably one of the highest apple producing counties in the United States. I call this painting the end of the season because the apple bins have been cleaned out. It's the leaves are off the trees. It's time for winter to kind of reclaim the landscape. I forgot to mention, by the way, that all this weekend, all of my paintings on my website will be 20% off, and I will be offering either free shipping, or if you live within 150 miles of the city of Philadelphia, the great city of Philadelphia, I will deliver it in person. This is a painting of South Jersey, Camden, New Jersey. I was going to a hearing in South Jersey, and I was on the Patco high-speed line. And by the way, I represent the Patco police officers and the Patco workers too. And I was going through kind of a tough section of Camden, and I saw these firefighters at work, and I, again, snapped some pictures on my iPhone, and I created this scene. I call it Camden Firefighters. This painting here is another recent painting I've done. This is actually from an old photograph from the late 70s, early 80s. I used to live in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. I lived there for 21 years before I came up here to go to law school. This is an old junkyard called Page's Auto Body, and they used to specialize in old Dodges. So I recently painted this, and this is actually not yet framed, as you can see. I'm trying to decide what sort of frame to put on it. Chris and I are actually having a debate about this, but she's probably going to win. It's either going to be this frame here or this frame here. So if you guys want to weigh in and tell me which one you like the best, that would be awesome.
I can't even remember which one I like best.
I can't. I'm not going to say anything. I like, dude. This also will show you, if you look down at the bottom here, you can see the underpainting I use. It's almost an orange. It's an orange yellowish transparent underpainting. I almost always use that as an underpainting for my work, and then I build up from it, and I usually find it gives the paintings a nice warmth. Okay. Uh-oh. Somebody just turned on the printer.
Uh-oh. As you'll see, we have cats in the house here.
Yes, they run the house.
Yes.
So this is a small painting here. People who know the town of Gettysburg may recognize this is the side of a very iconic diner called the Avenue Diner. I think now it's called Mary's or Mary's Avenue Diner. Again, this is this example of me trying to capture light on the side of a building like Hopper wanted to do. I was just taken by the way the light was hitting the kind of the stuccoed exterior and the shadow of the car. This is another painting of what I see every day on the 101 line. Sorry, people. This is a painting of a little town outside of Philadelphia. It was another sunny, after a snowstorm kind of day. I call this painting Hope because there's something about the little yellow school bus that just kind of, to me, signified hope in some way. This was painted several years ago. And again, it's an example of painting what I see. Okay, this is a painting that students of the Battle of Gettysburg will probably recognize. This is the Rose Farm at the Battle of Gettysburg, at the Gettysburg battlefield, I should say. It's also part of the wheat field. Mr. Rose, Farmer John Rose, had a, George Rose, I'm sorry, had a wheat field, and more Americans were killed or wounded in this field in about 3 hours' time than died or were wounded in the entire day of D-Day. I call this painting Come Ye Disconsolate, and then the title needs some explanation. I call it that because after the carnage of the second day, there was a young boy, no one knows whether he was a Confederate or a Union soldier, who was in the middle of the field wounded and singing the psalm, the hymn, Come Ye Disconsolate. So that's why that painting is called that. It's one of my favorite pieces. It's been around for quite a while, so on my website you'll see it's priced very reasonably. I think anyone that has an interest in the battle would love to have this in their home. I'd love to see it in their home. This small painting here is,
Excuse me?
it's a little shore restaurant in Brigantine, New Jersey. I painted several years ago. It was off season. Nothing was happening. I just, again, liked the way the light was hitting the side of the building. I like the composition. And I painted it a couple years ago. This is a painting of my means of transportation in the normal days into Philadelphia. That's the Route 101 trolley coming out of the town of Media where we live. This is the station I usually would take. It's another winter morning. I was really taken by the way the shadows were hitting the piece of equipment over to the right, and the way the shadows were casting on the snow in the foreground. This painting was in the Media Arts Council jury show, and it won honorable mention. Pretty proud of that because it's the first time I was ever in that show.
Can you speak up a bit, please?
Sure.
Yes.
It's one of
Thank
sorry
you.
about that. It's one of my favorite pieces. For a lawyer, I always get accused of speaking too softly. So I have to remember that.
I'm moving away from you too. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's Chris's fault. Okay, this is another example of painting what I see. I was coming home from Washington, D.C. a couple of springs ago from a conference, and the train was kind of trailing a passing storm. As we crossed the Susquehanna River, the sun burst out through the clouds in that fashion, right over the little town of Port Deposit, Maryland. The actual source photo I used for this, because it was taken from a moving train, was somewhat blurry, so I had to use my imagination for some of the buildings. But I really liked the way the sun was hitting the puddles on the little road, and the red and green of the fishing buildings. This is a recent painting of mine. It's called Farm at Ridley Creek. Ridley Creek is a state park very near to our home. This is a particular farm there that I've painted several times. This most recent painting is again in the snow. Again, I like the way the light was coming down and casting kind of these late afternoon shadows here, and the strip of sunlight hitting the snow and hitting the slush on the road. This is also, I will add, housed in a very nice vintage frame. Yes? More questions?
There's a suggestion that we flip the screen horizontal, but we had problems with that earlier, so we're staying with the vertical, I think.
Yeah. I think we should do that. Anyway, it's in a vintage frame. A friend of mine sold to me. It's probably dates from the late 19th, early 20th century. I really like the way the piece, and I really like the piece works, and I really like the way the frame works with the piece. This is a painting also from Adams County, Pennsylvania. It is the tiny road that we take actually going home. A lot of times in my paintings, I try to inject an element of tension, even in rural pastoral pieces like this. Here you've got the little car on the road, and you wonder, where's that car going? What's the story of that occupant? This is, again, a newer piece, also in a very nice, not a vintage frame, but a very nice gilded frame.
Someone else is asking about horizontally.
All right, we'll try it.
We're going to try to do it horizontally.
Let us know how that works.
Let us know. Does that work? Oh, you can't turn your phone while recording.
Well, this should be okay now. Can everyone see that now? Okay, we're just going to go ahead and, on the assumption people can see it. If you can't, let us know. This is another painting from the Gettysburg battlefield. This is the George Weicker farm on the battlefield. I was taken by the brilliant autumn color of the tree. It's a little bit stylized. It doesn't look exactly like that. I took some liberties with the building itself.
Unfortunately, it doesn't turn. No, it doesn't. I
Okay,
don't
we
think,
have to go back to...
I don't think it's working.
Okay, sorry about that, people.
Rehearsal went perfectly. We are back to vertical.
Okay, you might have to pull back a little bit.
Okay. Should I go to the next?
Yeah. This next painting is a is a suburban scene from Delaware County, which is where we live. I've always been attracted to this weird shaped building at the intersection of Route 1 and Township Line Road. I was stopped at the intersection one day, had my cell phone with me. I noticed both the kind of iconic for this area anyway, Wawa billboard and the Yingling beer truck also in the picture. Okay, so one of the things I've started to do, well, let me show you one more painting that I just recently completed and tell you the story about it. Last April of 2019, I was in a hearing in City Hall, and on a lunch break, I went out to where the courtyard is, and this young man was playing Vivaldi beautifully on his violin, and people were walking by. It was a beautiful spring day in Philadelphia. So I took several source photos. The original photo had figures in the background where the courtyard is, and I initially, until the very end, had planned on painting them in, but I just decided that it would be better as a solitary piece, so I kind of painted them out. So this is called City Hall Violinist. And this is also going to be framed. This frame, Chris and I agree on, it will be framed in a frame that has this configuration. So this is a 9x12 piece. It'll make the whole thing about 11 by 15 probably. What I've also done of late is started to do some acrylic paintings just on unmounted canvas paper, making them. These aren't on my website, by the way, so you won't find them there. But if you're interested in any of them, let me know. Making them a little more affordable to people that want to start collecting fine art pieces. This is called Passing Storm. This is also in Adams County, Pennsylvania. Very typical of a summer afternoon where the storms would roll through the mountains, and then the sunshine would follow in the wake of the storms. This is a painting called.
Hold it up a little straighter.
This is a painting called Morning View from a Slow-Moving Train. Once again, I'm on the Amtrak line. This is pulling out of Baltimore, and it was early in the morning. I just love the way the sun was hitting the building and the way the shadow was formed, and all the colors in the shadows. Shadows are just full of various hues and tones. The way I paint is building up shadow slowly with transparent glazes to make sure that these colors show through.
We're getting a little reflection here.
Okay. These final two pieces are kind of a set. Is that okay like that? Mm-hmm. Okay. In probably 1995, I took a series of photographs of Old Passyunk Avenue, which has changed, and that's in South Philadelphia. It's changed a great deal since these views were taken. But it was an early morning day, and the sun was slanting over the cars, over the taxi cab, and over the buildings. So these can be either purchased separately or together. Okay. So I want to show you. Follow me. I want to show you one last piece, and I'll do a little demo for you guys. We have about 15 minutes left. This is a painting. The story behind this painting is I was coming home from work. It was early evening, last probably November, and I actually got off at the wrong stop. I wasn't really paying attention. I got off at a stop prior to the one I normally get off of, so I had to walk a little ways through a part of media I hadn't really explored before, and I walked right past this ball field, and I saw the flag, and there was just something very brave about it to me, the way it was flying, and the milkiness of the early evening clouds, and the street light shining down from above. So I painted it. I really didn't know what to call it. I thought of various things. I put it online. I ended up calling it Untitled. I've just named it. Based on the events of last week, it's now called June 1st, 2020. Okay, so we got some time left, so I will give you a little demonstration, show you how I work. This is, first of all, I use my own photographs when I can, almost all the time. This is a scene from actually our landing outside of Gettysburg. This is our boundary stone of our property. It was a fall day. The sun was making these great shadows, great spots of sunlight on the trees. I love painting the complementary colors of orange and blue and violets. I just love the way it does something to me as a person. I can't really describe it, but you know, I do paint what I like to paint. I don't try to paint for the crowd. I've always found it's better to do it that way. There's an honesty about it that I think customers can kind of suss out. Let me say now too that I love doing the Rittenhouse show. It's a lot of work. Setup is a pain in the neck. Breaking down is a pain in the neck. But the ability to meet with patrons and find out why painting moves them is matchless. And that's the one thing we don't have, unfortunately, in a live version this year. But we're hoping by doing this virtual show, we can have interaction with patrons, we can have interaction with people, with artists, with art students who want to know more about your work, who express an interest in joining the show themselves. So this is a forum for that, and hopefully it's an experiment for us, and obviously we've had a couple hiccups in our presentation, but hopefully it'll prove to be a worthwhile enterprise. Okay, so this painting is on wood panel. What I start with is an underpainting. This is actually painted in acrylic, underpainting of transparent oranges and yellows. I've blocked in the sky. So I'm ready to, and some of this is thin washes of oil paint, so I'm ready to build up the painting a little bit. I'm gonna recreate the shadow over here like the photograph instructs me to. So I want to tell you a little bit about my processes and my methods. I try not to have too many colors in my palette, but I'm not one of those limited palette guys, partly because I guess I didn't tell you guys this, but I'm self-taught. I don't have any formal art training, so I make a lot of mistakes. Usually takes me longer to get things done than a quote real artist would have to go through. So my palette here consists of titanium white. Let me turn this on here, you can see there, which is a opaque white, just for like final touches of white or of a light color. Phthalo green, sap green, which is a kind of like an earth tone green. This color is called brown pink. And if you're going to start doing water mixable oils, I would advise getting the Holbein Duo Aqua Oil brand. This is a color that you don't really find anywhere else, and it's a wonderful. I'll show you what it looks like just on the palette. It's just this wonderful, almost greenish brown, glazy brown, and I use it no matter what I'm doing. I use it in almost every piece I do. It's just indispensable for me. Hope they never got a business. Hope they never stop making this color. This is a alizarin crimson.
Oh, we're losing your vocals a little bit. Can you just speak a little louder? I'll stay closer to you. Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. This is alizarin crimson that I use mainly for mixing my darks. These are the blues I use. This is a phthalo blue, which I don't ordinarily use, but this painting kind of calls for a kind of a deeper, more robust blue than ultramarine. This is ultramarine blue, which I always use. This is a color also found in the Holbein line. It's called lavender, actually, and it's another color I like to use. It's really just a kind of a gray light blue.
Oh, there you
Got
go.
it?
Yes.
Okay. This is another blue I use, a manganese blue. I found this new company called Daniel Smith. Actually, it's not a new company, but I think Daniel Smith just started painting, or started manufacturing oil mixable paints, and it's a really good company. The paint is really, it's got a real nice sense of body to it. It's like a traditional oil color. This is cadmium yellow light. This is called quinacridone gold. I use this color a lot too. It gives a lot of these real vibrant, bright tones, bright kind of russet tones. This is a transparent yellow. A lot of my colors are transparent colors. That's why, as much as I would like to try, I think it's really, really hard for me to paint plein air because my work consists of building up layers of color. Let me just get a rag here. Here we go. Going farther down, you have cadmium yellow deep, cadmium orange, cadmium red light, a painting also from Daniel Smith called Buff Titanium. And then this is a mixing white. It's a zinc white. I use that much more frequently than I use the titanium white because it's softer and it mixes better with colors. So the two mediums I use are, this milky white kind of substance is called, it's just called a painting medium, but it's from this company, a German company called Lucas. This is very good, but it dries very fast and kind of chalky. I use it to block in the sky here. It's a little hard to use when you're really trying to build up transparency, so that's why I use this other. This is made by Gumrocker. It's a fast drying medium. It really gives you a nice translucent glaze, and I like to use that on the areas of bright sunlight. So I'm gonna start putting in the other shadow. I've got the shadow started here, and I'm going to kind of go back into that with some phthalo blue and some of the brown pink that I love so much, and maybe a little bit of alizarin. Give it almost like a purplish, and then really thin it out with the medium so it really just glides on. A little more of the, sorry, I'll try to talk louder. A little more of the bluish color here. Usually, this is weird for me because usually I'm listening to movie soundtracks when I paint, which is really kind of essential. So I'm kind of at a disadvantage. So if this starts looking kind of funky, I'll blame it on that. You'll see it's covering, it's making the tone, but the underpainting is also showing through. And I will take a stylus like this, and I'll even score in some of the highlights like that, so you can see the leaves coming through the shadow, like so. This is still kind of wet here, so I can do this again too. This is called fast drying, but it actually takes a while to dry, which is good for me because it allows me to do what I'm doing right now. Allows me to like keep the translucency of the leaves, even in the shadow areas. I tend to do this quite a bit. I actually find it very relaxing. And it kind of creates a result that I've never been able to do any other way than what I'm doing right now. You can just really have fun with it. One of the things I like is that I just finished that piece, Urban Repellers. very tight, a lot of angles, a lot of lines, somewhat exacting, although the figures are, I tried to paint the figures pretty loosely. So it's really nice to be able to go back to a rural scene that's more fluid and it's more room for interpretation, and it's just fun. So I don't think I could ever go back to doing one style of landscape or another. I always have to switch off like this. It's just really good for the soul. Okay, a little bit of manganese blue in there. And this is just a very, this has some ways to go. This is kind of the beginning of kind of blocking in and also establishing value and color. My sister just told me she just got my message to tune in. She's actually the reason why I started painting. She is another, like Chris, she's a real artist. She went to school, she's a fine arts major, and I always had to do what she did. So I used to steal her art books when I was a little boy. So she paints completely different than I do. She does wonderful, wonderful watercolors. But she's good to bounce off ideas with. Okay, so if you look at the source photograph, you'll see that I'm trying to keep all these nice lights, kind of leave them alone for now. So I'll start building up some of the darks in the tree trunk to kind of show the contrast. This again will be a long process, but I can start and show you how I establish my darks. I actually just started organizing my palette vertically like this. I saw it on some instructional video, and it's actually really nice. It's a nice way to work. So for my darks, what I usually do is combine. I hardly ever use black. For the first time in a long time in this painting, I used a little bit of black, but I try to stay away from it. It just kind of dulls things down. So my darks are usually built up with the brown pink, which is again essential for me, alizarin, and either the phthalo blue or the ultramarine blue. And I'll do a little bit of medium here. Check that, that's a little bit too blue, so I'll add some of this. And some alizarin. And that's probably going to give me a good start to my dark. Brown here. You see it's still going to come on, even though it's dark, it's coming on pretty thin.
Carrie says hello.
Oh, hi Carrie. So you still see some of the yellow, some of the orange coming through, but it's starting to build up the tree. And I just tried it. The darks are not dark; they're just a combination of all the colors. So I try to vary my palette when I'm putting on the darks. I'll even bring in some real kind of pale blues, just to kind of give it a first passage through like that.
We have about 6 minutes left.
Okay. This painting is, again, in the very early stages. Like I said, I just finished that last painting 2 days ago. But I wanted to give you guys kind of an idea of how I work. And I will tell you, I'm at a complete disadvantage here because I don't have any music. I really need music. Chris will tell you that I'm a devotee of some of the weirdest soundtracks you'll ever hear, but it really gets me going and it really helps.
Oh, you lost your image.
Okay. This tree back here is a more of a, it's more in shadow, so it's got this blue, but again, very thinly painted. It'll dry fairly quickly, and I can go back over it. Another thing I can do is take a stylus again, take just a piece of, just like a skewer, a wooden skewer I like to use, and just score the tree trunk. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just kind of establishing some line and, you know, just giving it, I think, more of a sense of light. All right, we're almost done here, folks.
Somebody said that you could sing for us if we don't have music.
No, I can't.
Also, I cannot sing a note. So
Yeah, that is
we're
not.
out of luck
That's
there.
not happening. That'll really turn off people. Will probably never be able to do this again, and they'll blame me for it. No, I could put on the soundtrack, but we're almost done here, so I will. We'll do this again. Hopefully, we'll see you guys live in September. That's our goal. There's nothing like it, but this is a nice substitute. And again, sorry for the hiccups, but that's showbiz. We really appreciate everyone tuning in. We really appreciate all the support we get from the Philadelphia community, and with this forum from the community worldwide. Anyone who looks at our Facebook page can see this. We'll be having these events all weekend. And again, if anyone's interested in any of my paintings, they can contact me. My website is Charles Thomas Joyce Fine Art. The address is www.ctjoycefineart.com. And my email is thecjs@comcast.net. So you can reach me either through my website, or even better, to just email me. And I hope to meet some people I haven't met before. I hope to see some old friends. Again, the hardest part about what we're doing this weekend is we don't get to see you. We really, really, really enjoy our patrons. I always tell people that are interested in the show that this is the only way you can really find out if your work is moving people and why. And even if they don't buy anything, even if they're, you know, a poor struggling art student, if they come in and they talk to you about about your processes, it's a worthwhile expenditure of your time. And no matter what I paint in the city of Philadelphia, and I usually don't paint anything that's popular like Boathouse Row or the skyline. I'll paint some forgotten section of South Philadelphia, and every single show someone comes up to me and says, I used to live right on the block, and they'll tell me a story about someone who worked in the store I painted. I'll even paint even in the suburban scenes. I'll get people that live or lived in that area, and even if they don't buy my pieces, it makes me feel good that they've been able to see a little slice of home. So with that, I think I'm past my time. I'm going to sign off, and thank you again for listening in, or for tuning in, and we'll see you in September.